Greetings from Chicagoland. You're listening to Munira's Musings, where your host Munira will showcase new guests each week to share exciting details about the journey to their niches. As we like to say, the riches are in the niches. And on this show, we'll share ideas on how to break through our invisible boundaries so we can start taking steps towards our dreams and create the life that we most desire. If you're passionate about impacting lives, then this podcast will give you some great ideas and equip you with the tools to quickly grow your business. Okay, let's get started with today's show. Here's your host, Munira.
Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira, the niche navigator, coming to you live with another guest, with another niche. How are you all? It's been a while. I took a few minutes off because of Ramadan, and it was really hectic. Couldn't make it. Some of my guests couldn't make it, but we're here again and resuming, starting with our guest from Rhode Island, Kristen Zhivago. Hi, Kristen. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you. So this program is about bringing awareness to different people in different lanes of worlds. And there are so many people that we don't know about. This is a way to connect. This is a way to instill an idea. This is a way to invoke your hidden passion, to grow up and say, you know what, about time, let's do this. And don't stand on the sidelines anymore. Let's jump into the entrepreneurial pool and start something, because that's what we need. Everybody needs a second income. And how do you start that? Some people are just on their way and on their merry way, but still somewhere they have a hiccup and they're trying to grow. So without further ado, I want to talk to Kristen. So Kristen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. I'm a revenue coach. That was an industry I made for myself. Nobody else had been a revenue coach when I came up with the phrase. I liked it because CEOs and entrepreneurs don't really care whether it's sales or marketing that brings in the leads. They just want more revenue. So if you say you're a revenue coach, you immediately get their attention. And if I was standing in an elevator with a CEO and they said, well, what's that? I would say, well, I help CEOs and entrepreneurs make more money by understanding what their customers want to buy from them and how they want to buy it. So I became an expert on the customer's buying process. This was especially important as digital became more common. Google changed everything in terms of buying, searching, getting what you want. And if you don't support their buying process, I don't care what you're selling. If you don't understand what they want to buy from you and how they want to buy it, you're not going to succeed. I don't care how much money you bring in from investors or anything. You've just got to understand your customers. So I wrote a book on the subject called Roadmap to Revenue, How to Sell the Way Your Customers Want to Buy. It's a 5-star book on Amazon, still doing well. They keep raising the price on it, so it must be doing well. But it's basically a recipe. And it says, if you interview your current customers or prospective ones, if you don't have any yet, but most people have some, and interview them the right way. And I've interviewed thousands of customers, so I've worked out the details, and I'd spell out everything in the book. The book is a recipe. It's not just a theory with lots of examples. It's an actual, okay, here's where you are. Here's what your perspective needs to be. Here's how you find out what you need to find out. And then here's how you apply it in your company so that you can start making more money. Back in 2017, I was looking around and realized that there were a lot of established companies with smart people in charge of them who were really struggling with digital marketing. So I'd been in tech for years, decades. And so I thought, I'm going to start an agency. I have. We're doing extremely well. We have a no jerk philosophy. So there's no jerk workers and no jerk clients. So I'm living in this jerk-free bubble, which I really enjoy. And we do a wonderful job. We bring in qualified leads for our clients and help them grow their businesses.
So just before we started, you said that you had 28 jobs before you fell into this. Can you tell us a little bit about those jobs?
Yeah, I was selling and marketing. I was a salesperson. I was a marketing person in various companies. And honestly, I was typical of entrepreneurs. And I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, and we all have something in common, which is in a structured environment where you just have a job and you're trying to, help them out. You often move faster than the organization can move. So I would do the things I was supposed to do and get everything caught up. And I'd go back into the CEO and say, okay, I've done this and this, this, and this. It's all done. And he'd say, okay, I don't have anything else for you right now because we got to catch up with what you're doing and, implement it and so on. I finally realized, to the happiness of my mother, who was very worried about me having all those jobs. And my husband too, because I would come home on a Friday and say, I quit my job. I did what I had to do and everything. And he'd say, oh, what are you going to do? And I'd say, well, Monday, I'm going to start work at such and such. I was never a day without a job. I'd been a headhunter for 5 years in Silicon Valley. So I knew how to get myself a job. And finally, one day I realized I was a consultant. And ever since then, and that was way back in 1979 in the high-tech business, I've just been helping companies increase their revenue.
That is awesome. So wonderful, right? And then you decided, okay, you don't want to do this. You started working for yourself, and now you live in this jerk-free bubble, as you call it.
Yeah.
So why is selling to and that process that you just described so important for small business, so business owners, not small, but business owners? Why do they have to know what they want to sell and how to sell?
Well, if you don't sell anything, you don't have a business. I mean, I don't care how much funding you get or whatever. The investors care about different things than your customers do. So that's always a trap. I've never had any funding. I don't believe in it for myself. I'm fine with it for other companies, but they become your buyer, pleasing the investors or the board of directors or your father-in-law or whoever it is that gave you the money. The problem with that is, again, there is no business if you're not making sales. So one of the things we do in our work is we make sure we educate our clients about digital marketing, because we find a lot of people use agencies who kind of want to keep them in the dark. They want to be the expert that knows what to do and the latest algorithm for Google SEO and all that. And they don't even give them access to their social accounts or the back end of their website, which is an absolute crime. You absolutely have to have access to the back end of all your digital resources. So if something happens to that agency, they can't hold you hostage. I have a client right now that their agency stopped really working for them, so they stopped paying them. And now the agency won't let them into their Pinterest account and other accounts because they're waiting for some small amount, like 5 or 10 grand or something out of what they owe them. It's a pretty large company. It's sad. These things happen all the time. And it was one of the reasons I started the agency. I just couldn't stand it. It was a bad thing, injustice. Anyway, hope that answers. So they have to understand how they buy and what they buy. And by the way, I call this mindset-driven marketing. Nothing matters more than the mindset of the customer when they set out to buy. And as buyers, we know this. A mindset consists of their desires, their concerns, and their questions. If you address all of those things properly and relevantly on your website or Instagram or whatever you're using to sell with, right away, they will recognize themselves. They will say, oh, good, they get me. And they're way more likely to give you the business. So this is absolutely essential now in this age where people can come into your site, look, and then click away. And as buyers, we know this. As buyers, we know that we won't buy anything on Amazon unless it has some reviews, for example. And, there's certain things that buyers do. And if you understand it and you support it, you're going to succeed. If you don't, and you won't.
Okay, I get that. So your advice to anybody who is seeking this and haven't found you yet, what do you tell people?
Well, the main thing is read my book, because it's, $35 now. It used to be 25, but anyway, just read the book. There's an audio version, Kindle versions, and so on. It's on Amazon. Roadmap to Revenue, again. It's a prescription, and it tell you exactly what you need to do. And the first and second chapters are the basic ground laying, but chapter 3 is here's how you get your customers on the phone. And by the way, you want to interview them by phone, not a Zoom meeting with video, because they'll get uncomfortable. You don't want to do it in person. You definitely don't want to do a focus group, because that's too many other people infecting the group. You just want to have a personal conversation. And if you don't want to do it yourself, you can hire somebody who understands your business and your customers. They have to be able to understand the customers. Otherwise, it's not going to be a relevant conversation, and the customer's just going to get bored and cut it short. So there's very specific ways to get them on the phone. You make an appointment, you give 30 minutes or so, you ask open-ended questions like, how do you feel about our product or service? And if you were the CEO of this company tomorrow, what's the first thing you would fix? And what trends do you see in the market? What's your biggest problem in your work, or whatever they're relating to your product or service? So, and the questions that I have in there that you ask have been worked out over literally thousands of interviews for hundreds of companies in all kinds of industries. So they really are a good starting point. You might have some questions that are specific to your product or service, but this will give you the basis for a really good conversation. You record it. You tell them up front, I'm going to record this because I can't type as fast as you can talk. I'm going to be taking notes, but I'm going to have it transcribed. And then I'm going to break it up into sections by category, by the question. These are the answers to the questions that people ask. And that, if you're presenting to your board or somebody, you want to have that anonymity built into the process. So you can tell people on phone, I'm recording it, but I'm not going to identify you. I'm just going to say, here are all the answers I got to this question. And then they open up and they talk freely, and you have it transcribed. You then clean up the ums and ahs so people sound intelligent, because we never speak as intelligently as we write. And I end up with 2 reports. One is a conversation report, word for word, here's what they said. And the other one is a summary and recommendations report that bubbles it all up and says, here's the big theme. The beauty of this is you only have to talk to 5 to 7 customers of a given type, and you get bankable information. By the 5th call, you're already starting to say, there's a trend here. This is the phrase they're all saying to describe their desires, concerns, questions, or us, or our product or service. Here's why I bought it, whatever. And that becomes the main theme of your campaign. So everything you do then relates to exactly what the customer said to you. You're giving back what you got from the people who already bought from you, and you're reverse engineering a successful sale. It's a method. It works.
Wonderful. That is amazing. So it's taken you almost 4 decades, right, to get to this point, and you're very successful at this point. You said knowing your customers. It's basically just knowing your customer and figuring out their pain points is basically what we are doing, uncovering. It's like a layer of onions, because they close up and they don't open up. So your recipe is to open this customer up, to tell you what you want to hear, and so that you can help them purchase.
Correct.
And So why has this been such a wonderful kept secret?
Ego, pure and simple. People who start companies, all of us entrepreneurs, we're pretty smart, fast moving. We think we know everything about our product or service, even if we've talked to customers, while we're selling to them. I've had CEOs say to me, I don't need to talk to my customers because my salespeople are out there talking to them all day. And so then I just say to the CEO, okay, when was the last time you told a salesperson the truth about what you were thinking while they were selling to you? And then he says, or she says, oh, you're right. When you're buying something, you're playing poker. You are negotiating. You're not, if the salesperson blows it during the call or whatever, you don't say, oh, you just blew it. Because then they're going to say, oh, no, you don't understand. And they'll just try to talk you into it. But you've made up your mind. How many of us have gone to a vendor or something and, you're listening to the pitch and suddenly they say something that makes you go, oh, I'm not going to do business with these people. That's not what I want. And we walk away, but we never tell the salesperson we're walking away when we're walking away. We're polite. We say, thank you very much. We listen some more. And then, and they go off and tell their boss, oh, I just made a sale. And meanwhile, the customer's gone back to their computer and started Googling again, So we don't get this information unless we specifically ask for it in the right way and get them in the right frame of it's very specific. If you do that, then you're fine. But otherwise, you think you know. We all think we know. And we are all wrong. And I learned this when I was a revenue coach. And I would go to companies and they'd say, here are the 10 things that are most important to our customers. We know this. And so, okay, fine. Sounded logical, reasonable. And then I would interview the customers. And their list was always different. Sometimes some of the things were in common, but the list order was different. And very often, the very top thing that they cared about wasn't even on the company list. So everything they were doing was missing the customer's basic driving need. It's ego. We think we know more than our customers, and we don't.
Wonderful. Last words for our viewers.
Speaking of entrepreneurs, when you started out, talk about a niche. This is one of the best ways to find out if there really is a niche there and if you could have enough to make a business out of it and how to direct it properly. Okay. With like me being a revenue coach, I didn't want to be a sales consultant or a marketing consultant. There were a million of them out there. I wanted to be somebody that if I said what I did, the CEO would say, oh, that's me. I need that. So you got to find the thing that they want and then build your business on that. That's the fastest way to success.
Thank you. So find your thing. I have to write these notes. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
How do people find you, Kristen?
Oh, they can just Google Kristen Zhivago. They can go to zhivagopartners.com. They can go to Amazon for the book, which is Roadmap to Revenue. And of course, I'm on social and all the normal channels.
Wonderful. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is a wonderful conversation. Didn't want to let it end, but time is of an essence. And here it is. She said it, you cannot have a business without customers. And what is it that your customers really want? One of the things is to read a book and figure out what the roadmap is, or connect with her and see what and how she can help you. That's all I got today. My cup is really full today. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, if you like our channel and if you like us, go ahead, share this video or subscribe to our channel. We are everywhere on social media, and just join us, because next week we have another entrepreneur with another niche and a lot of other advice. Until then, we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Munira's Musings. We hope that you found today's conversation inspiring and useful so that you can continue making progress towards mastering your own niche. Please tune in next week for another episode. And in the meantime, you can follow us on social media at Munira's Musings on Facebook and leave us a review wherever you're listening to podcasts. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.